Hey guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. Today I'm going to review Operation Fortune. So Operation Fortune is the newest Guy Ritchie film, and in this film we see Jason Statham as well as a few other familiar faces come back to do a new action comedy film in the classic Guy Ritchie style. And I have to say right away, I am not the biggest Guy Ritchie fan in the world. I do like some of his films, but I definitely had some fun with this one. There's a few mixed bag things in there for me, but overall I thought it was a fun, enjoyable ride, especially if you're a fan of his previous works. So in this one, we have Jason Statham playing Orson Fortune, as well as Aubrey Plaza, Josh Hartnett, Bugsy Malone, Hugh Grant, a really stellar cast of actors and actresses. And basically, the simple premise rundown of this movie is you have Jason Statham's kind of group of government contractor, mercenary, spy people. Basically, they're trying to stop the bad guy who's played by Hugh Grant, who's a weapons dealer, and there's this mysterious object that they're trying to track down, and they use Josh Hartnett, who is an actor, who's actually the favorite actor of Hugh Grant's character, to kind of get an in with him, and it kind of has that comedic element of that going on. But overall, it's like kind of a lot of what you expect from Guy Ritchie in the past. The real standout in this movie is Hugh Grant as the villain. And in this movie, he does a great job of blending comedy as well as being kind of a menacing character. Sometimes when you have kind of a goofy bad guy in a movie, you can't take him seriously. He's kind of like just a throwaway comedic character. But in this one, there is a little bit of layering to him where he can be goofy and off-putting, but then he's also very menacing at times. Jason Statham plays your kind of traditional action hero like we've seen him do in the past. He's really good at it, so I can't knock him for that. This isn't anything elevated or beyond what we've seen from him in the past, but, you know, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Aubrey Plaza plays Sarah Fidel, who's kind of like the technology specialist for him, you know, kind of the guy in the chair that's here helping Jason Statham do all the missions. But I'm glad that she's able to get more field experience and actually kind of stand up for herself and have her own little spy missions throughout the film. And that's one of the things that I liked about the movie, is there's a lot of characters moving around, but it all comes together in a way that feels like it's not bloated. The movie moves really quickly. Like with Guy Ritchie, the editing's very fast-paced, the dialogue is very fast-paced, and it never felt boring. To a degree, I do feel like some of his choices kind of cut into the storytelling elements. We move around really fast, and we're kind of jumping from one location to another. You know, the classic title card screen of going from, you know, Turkey to America to London to just anywhere you can imagine this movie. It jumps around a lot, particularly in the first third of the film. That's just his style, and people really enjoy it. So if you like that, I think you will. For me, it's a bit much. It's a lot moving really fast, and I feel like some of the plot points kind of get lost on the cutting room floor. But overall, each character felt like they had an opportunity to shine. It didn't feel like we had any really unnecessary characters. Because even in the beginning, I felt like the character played by Bugsy Malone, JJ, I didn't know what he was really doing in the film to start off, but by the end of the movie, he felt like a real character, someone you were really rooting for, and I'm glad they gave, like I said, everybody the opportunity to shine. It didn't feel like anybody was like wasted in this role. Overall, action elements looked really good. They were shot really well like you expect them to be. I actually like the third act of the film where we get some kind of experimental shots using kind of like a GoPro with a POV view of, you know, a gunfight. I always think it's hard to pull off convincing gunplay in movies. Sometimes it just looks really stupid and doesn't feel very weighty. I think they did a decent job with the third act in particular. There's also a big action set piece involving some helicopters and kind of a botched retrieval, if you will. And I thought those scenes in particular were some of the best ones. And with it being a jet-setting film going across all these different locations, these exotic, kind of opulent luxury places, the production design looked really good. It never looked cheap or cheesy in any way. My biggest knock in the movie is really kind of a personal preference on my part. It's just, I feel like the comedy doesn't always land in the perfect way. I do think Hugh Grant does a fantastic job, and I think Aubrey Plaza brings her specific brand of comedy to this film, but sometimes it felt like they were in different movies, and I know that juxtaposition creates a comedy for a lot of people that they really enjoy, particularly with Guy Ritchie's films. For me, it wasn't as good as some of his other movies and the way he's able to balance that, but I do think it's okay. I can't say it's really that terrible. And also, like I said, with the pacing, there's a lot moving really quickly, and the story kind of, in my opinion, suffers a little bit from that. I wouldn't want this movie to be, you know, 2.5 hours long, but it really feels like we could have spent a little more time going through some of the more subtle plot points. There is a slight twist towards the end of the film that, while it isn't anything mind-blowing or incredible, I think it works for the story. I'm glad they didn't go too over the top with it and make it just twist back and forth. With these kind of espionage spy films, I feel like sometimes the writing bites off a little more than it can chew. This one felt a little more bare bones, and sometimes that's good. Sometimes people want a nice little simple consumable story, and I think this is definitely that. So if I were to rate Operation Fortune, I would give it a 6.5 out of 10. Definitely a fun, kind of unexpected film that's been delayed for, a couple years at this point, it feels like. I'm glad it got to be put out. I think it has some great performances, and it sets up the opportunity for there to be more films or be kind of a franchise built around this. And by the end of the film, I kind of was rooting for that. I didn't know how I felt moving forward, but then by the end, I really liked these characters. They grew on me. I think their chemistry worked really well, and I would love to see a potential, sequel to this. There's also an end credit scene, so you got to stay after like the initial credits that I think was one of the funniest moments in the movie. It really plays into kind of the ridiculous nature of some of the characters, and I love that they threw that in there. It felt like a very appropriate ending to this movie. So if you check out Operation Fortune, let me know what you thought about it. How does it rank for other Guy Ritchie films for you? For me, I feel like it's definitely in the upper half, and like I said, not a huge fan of his style in general, but I get why people like it, and it is fun to check these movies out in theaters. So again, thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. See you guys next time.